All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Excited to be with you on this February 12th. Halfway of the month already is gone. So time does fly by. So enjoy. Anyway, so good to see you guys. I made a decision this morning to address this topic for you regarding the Trump president's plan for Gaza. And what does it mean for West Asia or Middle East? That is, the chaos is going to create the instability, the tensions, and the geopolitical implications resulting in all this. You already have some other major players on the global stage, like Russia, already voicing concern about this. We haven't heard anything officially yet from China, but China did mention before that the Palestinians have the right to their land and so forth. So anyway, this is what I decide to address for you today, given my familiarity with the region. I traveled there a lot when I was working in Washington. I wrote extensively on the Middle East, so I know quite a bit about this particular region of the world. So before I'll do this, let me say hi to our wonderful community. Willie Holman, good to see you. Li Yang, Truth Seeker, Al Stalokin, K Mags, good to see you. First time I see this name here, so welcome. Taiwan Still, as always. Phil, as always. Marco W, good to see you, as always. Poseidon, here you are. I haven't seen you for a while, Poseidon. I hope all is well, and good to see you. Actually, you did mention something about Romania. Yes, I just read up on it yesterday as to what was going on in Romania, that the president resigned to prevent his country from falling into a civil war. So that's, to me, it says a lot. I wish our leaders were like that, but we are too corrupted. Anyway, so don't get me started on that. All right, guys, some housekeeping items. Be on the lookout for my upcoming interview with Professor Anna Malendog on Saturday at 8 a.m. Yes, it will be early my time because of her location. It's evening time for her. So I am also working on some interviews, very, very high profile individuals, guests, well renowned around the world. I'm not going to give in names because everything's still in a sort of the primary stages per se. So nothing is official yet. But if once things settle, I will let you know. But you won't want to miss those, and I will keep you posted on this one here, guys. So, all right, let's talk about the Trump's proposal for taking over Gaza. So whether you want to say, you want to use the term as actually, I'm gonna share something with you here that I all right, let me share this with you. It's a clip that was posted here by, I think, Suleiman. So take a listen, guys, please. Then I will elaborate more into this, and we'll go from there. All right, there it is. And please just give me a thumbs up once you hear the sound. I want to make sure.
Today you just said we're not going to buy Gaza.
We're not going to have to buy. We're going to have Gaza. We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy. We will have Gaza.
What does that mean?
No reason to buy. There is nothing to buy. It's Gaza. It's a war-torn area. We're going to take it. We're going to hold it. We're going to cherish it. We're going to get it going eventually, where a lot of jobs are going to be created for the people in the Middle East. It's going to be for the people in the Middle East, but I think it can be a diamond. It can be an absolute tremendous asset for the Middle East. And you're going to have peace. It's going to bring peace in the Middle East. Gaza, the way it is right now, every 10 years, you're going to have the same thing happening. I've watched it so long, all the death and destruction of Gaza. The civilization's been wiped out in Gaza. No, it's going to be a tremendous thing. It's fronting on the sea. It's going to be a great economic development job. It's going to put people to work, a lot of people to work. And those people are all going to be from the Middle East.
And just to follow up with one on that.
Okay. So, I just wanted to share with you that clip to highlight to you that it's ridiculous to how a so-called American president is thinking in terms of a transaction. This is, first of all, a violation of international law because that land has owners, called Palestinians, whether because they are in conflict with their central government, Gaza versus like the old Palestinians. It won't matter. It's still in. That's one. And second, that's a reckless proposal because what message is gonna send to the rest of the world that now you can do whatever, because you have the might, you have the power, whatever. But even for us, the idea of trying to flex our muscles in a way that is not even right. I mean, when you look at our history, I mean, go back to Vietnam, won the Vietnam War, we won the Afghan War. No, we didn't. Iraq, no. So what makes you think that we're gonna be going and trying to remove 2 million plus owners of the land? I don't think so. It's not. I don't think so. It's black and white. We don't have the right to even state something like this in long act on it. It's not right by any means. I criticize my own government, even though my government that I don't believe in, because if it was a government that does the right thing, then it would be a different story. Anyway, let me share the questions with you because you need to see this one here. I didn't update the questions. So I'm going to do it. I always prepare these questions, and so I'm going to share them with you right there. So why Gaza's proposal is reckless? Because it is reckless to begin with. Second question: what about international law? Because if you just don't think of anything else, the security chaos that's going to create, the instability, the economic downturn, the ethnic tensions, all this. If you put all this aside and you think of the first thing is the international law, it's whether it's a violation of the international law, and the third thing has to do with the geopolitical implications. Is this important? Because most countries in the region will have now to go back to the drawing board and think. When I say going back to the drawing board, it's for their own survival, especially the monarchies, and even in case of Egypt. And I am going to be talking about this. But before I'll delve deeper, make sure you, please, if this is your first time here, to subscribe to the channel here so you can be aware of what I post here and the videos that I upload and so forth. And also share it with the people so they can get a chance to hear the truth like you do. So, and thank you very much for your support. So I was thinking about doing this like we always do. I'll do a little bit of geography and a little bit of history. It's because, to put it in perspective, once again, I don't assume that everybody knows where everything is. So I'm going to share the geography, the map that is, and I give credit to World Atlas for that one. So here's the map. Just to put it in perspective for you to understand what are we looking at and what are we dealing with here. So Gaza Strip is a very narrow strip of a territory of the southwestern part of what used to be a British mandate of Palestine. Of course, the Brits always created a mess, not only in West Asia, but also in Central Asia, in India, Indonesia, Malaysia, and so forth. Their presence has never been a positive one. And Africa, for that matter, also, I can't forget that. So today, many countries recognize it as part of the so-called state of Palestine. But Palestine borders are yet to be determined pending a resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which is true because when you look at the map, just looking at it, you got now the West Bank. This is where Israel has turned its attention to, West Bank. As I said earlier, guys, I did write extensively on the Middle East during my first years of my PhD program, and I used to write a lot. And of course, when I worked in Washington, I ended up traveling a lot on behalf of the U.S. government at that time when I worked. I remember my first book was right here, The Ambiguous Foreign Policy of the United States Towards the Muslim World. That's about the Middle East, specifically all the Arab countries in the region. I did mention about North Africa to a degree, even though some, like for example, Egypt, consider itself part of the Middle East. Well, it is in Africa, not Middle East, but you can understand why they will want to say that or consider themselves that. But it's not a big deal. Suffice it to say that understanding this American ambiguous policy, it's now reflected through what Mr. Trump is thinking of doing. So the other aspects of this has to do with the history of Gaza. Well, as you know, the Gaza Strip was created from the aftermath of 1948. What happened in 1948, guys? And again, I just want you to be part of the conversation, like I always say. What happened in 1948? Oh, a Nakba. That is correct. Flat Earth. Nakba, it's an Arabic word for catastrophe. So, a Nakba. And this is why, of course, the three-day war, Taiwan still, Zhao Yang, you got it, the creation of Israel. All this happened during that specific time frame. This is what's important in understanding that. So, of course, the Arab-Israeli war, after which Israel declared its independence in May 1948. The U.S. was first to recognize that one. So the armies of several Arab states sort of invaded the former British mandate of Palestine, hoping to destroy the Jewish state at that time. So by early the next year, meaning 1949. However, the Israelis has repelled the Arab invasion. They then negotiated an armistice agreement with neighboring Arab countries, mainly Egypt, Transjordan, Jordan today, and Syria. This is why I'm saying Mr. Trump is not thinking right, or whomever is advising him. To me, this advisor, whomever that is, ain't telling him the truth or telling him what's right. And that gives me an idea that the advisor has no say into all this. This is from way above his or her grade level or pay scale, as we say. So that means there is an entity pressuring Donald Trump to move forward. So the armistice lines drawn in 1949, and I think I have some pictures that I got, but it's an old one. Yes, this is an image from back then. This is an old one. I give credit, by the way, to Reuters for this picture. This is an image of the Nakba, or the catastrophe, the first one. And this is a picture, and I give credit to Nick Rail. That's his picture right here. So this is was in what we call it, the Israeli airstrikes in Gaza City. That's what it was. So when you think about this history, you have to put it in perspective as to why Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, Lebanon to a degree, they're all going to be impacted. But now it's going to extend beyond if Mr. Trump moves forward with this. So when the remainder of the territory was brought under the control of who? Two countries, Egypt and Jordan. And remember, who was colonizing those two countries back then? Of course, it was the UK. Now you can see why the mess that the UK created. So Transjordan controlled what became known as the West Bank. Let me put that map back just to put it in perspective here. Or the Atlas. Yeah, right there. This is what the Jordan sort of took control of West Bank, while Egypt controlled the narrow strip of land that came to be known today as the Gaza Strip. Of course, named after the city of Gaza, which is the largest city in the. Here is the interesting thing, guys, that I found regarding regarding the historical record. What it says, and it surprised me when I read it, because it says, and I'm going to share word for word as it says. It says, and I quote. Let me get you the quote here. Egypt controlled a narrow strip of land that came to be known as the Gaza Strip, named after the city of Gaza, which is the largest city in the Egyptian occupied territory. Very interesting wording. Why they had to use that term to sort of explain how this is going to be. So I do find that this is an image of Gaza, and I give credit to Shutterstock for this one here. The other image, I believe, is I think I have another. Yeah, in the marketplace inside Gaza. I don't know if I have it here or not. No, I don't. Sorry, guys. I don't have that picture there. I do have the picture of the Kerem Shalom, which is the border line along the Israeli-Gaza border. It's right here. So this is what I. So understanding this history, at least as brief as it is, it gives you an idea. Which, by the way, because you have to know that even the area that controlled the Gaza, the Egyptians did not formally annex it, nor did they ever give its residents Egyptian citizenship. This is why Egypt now is pushing back against what Trump is saying. As a matter of fact, it was just reported this morning that now the Egyptian president, the one who conducted the coup to become president with our blessing, and the Saudis. Remember, Saudis behind the scenes. Saudis will show their face telling you, we do this and do that, but behind the scenes, they'll do the opposite. So the Saudis and the Americans gave the green light to Sisi to conduct a coup against Mohammed Morsi. Mohammed Morsi won the elections. We all remember, for those who are familiar with this. But here's the thing. Now, Sisi is saying he doesn't want to meet with Trump. Why he doesn't want to meet? Because he is nervous that Trump will embarrass him publicly and openly. It's because Sisi, like other Arab leaders, have no gut, no strength whatsoever to extend and say to Trump to his face, no, we are not going to agree to your nonsense proposal. I mean, just look at the king here watching how Trump's talking. This is back in 2018. A facial expression will tell you everything you need to know. And again, I am not picking at the king or Jordan. I am talking in general terms about most of the Arab or Muslim world, except two, Iran and Yemen. Straightforward. There is no ifs and buts, because this is how the Arab mindset is. They'll think that, for Sisi want to avoid it because he knows that Trump's going to embarrass him exact way as Trump did with the king of Jordan yesterday, when he told him, yeah, you're gonna have to have some Palestinian refugees, or we're gonna cut off the aid. Jordan depends on the US aid. I'm even wondering if they do receive money from US aid directly. You all know the corruption that exists with US aid. Speaking of that, we will be talking tomorrow on my other channel. I'll be talking with Elizabeth about this topic. So make sure to join me tomorrow. Me and Elizabeth will join me tomorrow on the other channel. We'll be talking about the massive corruption that is now exposed regarding two entities, USAID and FEMA, Federal Management Emergency Agency. So Egypt, as I said, is no different. Why? Because, and I give credit to Reuters for this picture, Egypt receives aid from the US. Since when? Since when Egypt starts receiving yearly aid from the United States? Does anybody know? It was one major event that paved the way for this one. If you know it, please type it in the chat box to share with the community. And again, I'm sure some of you know, 1953 boycott. Now, after that, it was a major deal that happened between 19. You're getting closer, Louis. The question is, how did Egypt end up receiving the yearly aid from the United States? It was because of one particular event. What was that event? Actually, Benazir, you got it. Camp David, peace with Israel. You got it. It was the Camp David deal. This is why we've been giving Egypt money to maintain that peace with Israel. Flat Earth, you got it. Hang on. Camp David, that's what it was. So we used to give them 2.4 to my knowledge. We dropped it to 1.6 or 1.7. And here is the thing. And I disclosed this in my, I disclosed it when I wrote the book about, when I talked about the Saudi book. I mentioned about Egypt, the corruption that we found once Hosni Mubarak died, and the money that was found in Switzerland, some bank account with a major amount of money, where that money was coming from, because Hosni Mubarak had been in power, has been in power for almost 28 years. So during that era, amassed all the aid we were given, and that aid was supposed to go to Egyptian people. So even though, sorry to say, I will not do that, yeah, you help once, because if you keep just, like we say, teach a man how to fish, he will have for life, whatever the saying goes. If you keep giving aid, that aid doesn't reach people. The same thing happens with even the Palestinians. You guys know we give the Palestinian Authority money. We give them about $756 to $800 million, to my knowledge. That was back when I was in DC. So where is that money goes? Because I don't shy away from this, because when Yasser Arafat died, right away after he died, and I have the proof for that, I disclosed it in my book with the reference. Right after he died, $10 million was transferred from a bank in Switzerland to Paris. Well, wait a minute, Mr. Arafat. Where did you get that money from? It's no different than what we have here in my own country. You got members of Congress with a salary of $150,000, $170,000, and yet a net worth of $12 million, $20 million. How this happened? So, I mean, we're talking about Egypt and Jordan and all that. I understand that, but I also don't shy away from disclosing this reality that most of us Americans are not even aware of. So, and that's what I'm saying. The idea of the money that was given to Egypt, it was to keep the peace, but keep them silent also. So this guy, he is from the military establishment. What you need to understand about Egypt, it's not the civilian government that controls that country. It's the military institution. And the head of the government is always a former military. Go back to the history of Egypt. From way Jamal Abdel Nasser, all the way after him Anwar Sadat, after him Hosni Mubarak, and now you got this clown here, Sisi, that is now taking over. All of them came from the military, because it's the military establishment that controls what's going on in Egypt. So the people do not see what's going on. This is why you need to understand this history. The same arguments I will make about the Jordan, because Jordan depends on the aid of the US. Without aid, they'll struggle. I mean, I know this for fact. Again, we dealt with the government at the highest level and understand what we dictate to them had to be applied per se. This is why when you hear the king saying, oh, It's what the president is going to do or what Israel does considered the declaration of war. It's nothing but a bravado, no more, no less. Egypt cannot swat a fly because Jordan has nothing to, what they're going to fight with. It's a tiny country. I mean, we are on their territory. The Jordanians have no idea. Egypt is different. Egypt has a large military. And if there is a concern from Israel, it will be more towards Egypt than towards Jordan. And this is why the argument that I'm saying, when Trump summoned both of them here, of course, Egypt sent its foreign minister who met with Marco Rubio at that time, because Sisi is nervous about meeting with Trump publicly. Even now, you have Syria. Well, you got this guy, Julani, the former terrorist, still to a degree. To me, it's so funny how we, today we call them one, the next thing we call them something else. It just depends on the agenda. Even this guy, now he is turning against Trump by saying Trump is wrong about declaring or displacing the Palestinians. So makes you just wonder what's next for this guy, like a dead man walking, basically. And usually that's how we do it. So I will even go as far as talking about this guy here, MBS, or Saudi Arabia for that matter. Saudis also are concerned that if they ever normalize relations with Israel, they will sort of, it will be a backlash domestically. And if there is anything the Saudi monarchy fears, is an internal uprising. Make no mistake, if you only know the conditions, economic and otherwise, because inside Saudi Arabia, Saudis have been taken care of from cradle to grave. That's how the government did it, does it, and it will maintain it so the monarchy stays in power. So the bottom line to all these guys, all these hypes from these Arab countries, whatever, it's about their own survival. Has nothing to do with the Palestinian people. So that's the bottom line to it. And I need you guys to understand this one. So the idea that, because I'm going to give you chronological dates to give you an idea how this is how it moved forward. Of course, back then, few weeks ago, a lot of Arab leaders, so-called leaders, got upset because saying that the Trump has no right in saying something like that by displacing the Palestinians, people from Gaza. So since the early days, the early days of the war, so Arab governments, particularly two, where are they? Who are they? Egypt and Jordan. So this is why they have always pushed that narrative against the expulsion of the Palestinian. Why? Because any refugee is going to end up in either this country or that country. Rarely that some will go to Lebanon, rarely that some will go to Iraq or Syria or what have you. So what's left is Egypt and Jordan. This is why you have both countries, meaning Egypt and Jordan, trying to push the narrative for this Palestinian statehood, which most of the Arab world are pushing for. But now, with what Mr. Trump did on February 4th of this year, right after, here is the key, it was right after meeting with the Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. So what did Trump propose? He proposed resettling the 2.2 million people out of Gaza. So, and taking control of the entire devastated coast strip. Well, wait a minute, man. Who gives you the right to even consider such thing? And second, under what order, when I say what order, under what international order you have that mandate to do that? And who are you to do that? And those are legitimate questions we ought to ask. Because if we don't do this, if we don't ask these questions, people will not understand. Just because Trump said it, so what? Trump is for Trump. Most Americans have no clue. They have no idea what the government is cooking right now behind the scenes as far as what's going on a certain aspects of this AI, for example, and who's pushing the narrative behind it. It's none other than Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is a friend of Trump. This is the one that pushed for Trump to accept Elon Musk in. Even Elon Musk himself, which, by the way, that's why they removed my comments, because they didn't like what I said. And all I said was, and I'm not going to repeat it here, is that I have one solution for dealing with corruption. You all know what it is. Starts with H. They didn't like it, they took it out. It's because Mr. Elon Musk, who is the prime defense contractor, how do you think he made all these billions? He's the one who took care of now launching. You're familiar with the Starlink, right? What is a Starlink about? Is to facilitate the connection around the world. But did you know that when Mr. Elon Musk launched a Falcon satellites or what have you, what's included in all that? Including also spy satellites for the US military. But those are also in support of the NRO, National Recon Office. That's the one that oversees anything. And if you hear anything about the director of this office, the NRO, National Recon Office, who stated in December, and I paraphrase here, you have nowhere to hide, which means we're going to be watching you. He said, well, I was referring to the terrorist and extremist groups or whatever. Yeah, right. Can you trust our government, what it says and it does? Which means most Americans are clueless as to by the time the satellites are launched over, they're going to be watching everything. This is why, for my American audience to understand why all of a sudden there is this push for the AI, especially after what DeepSeek just proved, the corruption that exists here in the US, because DeepSeek was created at a fraction of the cost, about $5 to $6 million. Here, the Silicon Valley pushing for billions and billions of dollars for open AI and all that stuff. As a matter of fact, Thiel and Elon Musk now pushing to control the AI space and trying to push, what's his name? Sam Altman. It's all for, to me, I just wanted to share this with you to put it in perspective. When an American president speaks about foreign policy, in this case, the decision to displace Gazans or any other inhabitants of rightful owners of the land, all you hear is bravado, because the American president or whomever that is has no clue. And this is what I need you guys to understand. Because here's the thing. Fast forward to February 10th, which is only last week and a half or so ago. Trump said that Palestine, and I quote, Palestinians will not have the right to return to Gaza under his plan, contradicting statements by his officials who indicated that the resettlement of Gaza residents will only be temporary. End of quote. It tells you right there, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. So, and let alone that Mr. Trump's plan, because his plan, where is his picture? Right there. His plan is calls for the U.S. control. When you hear the term control, you know what it means, meaning controlling all aspects of life within a region, let alone what's in Gaza underground. What is in Gaza? What does Gaza have underground? Does anybody know, guys? Can you type in the chat box? It's been discovered. Phil, oil, but gas, mainly gas. There is a lot of Alistarokin, you got it. Sam Tang, you got it. You guys got it. That's what it is. So the same arguments I can, and again, I found myself very, very sort of not agitated, but frustrated, frustrated in the sense that when I look at history, this is where, when I look at history, and I'll go back all the way 50, 70, 80, even 100 years, and see the statements that's been mentioned back then, only to realize that is what's going on right now. What is my reference to? Just to go back, if you allow me, guys, to what I was talking about, the Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and the satellites and so forth. If you go back to the 1930s, the technocrats at that era were advocating for what it is today, what we have today. And today, who do you see is going to be running the government? It's the technocrats. This is where my big concern, and this is where my average citizen here, it's clueless and oblivious, because he or she's spending his time or her time looking at the idiot box and just wondering how beautiful the United States is and so forth. Not even understanding what's going on around him or her. It's the same arguments I will make about this nonsense of this now Mr. Trump's proposal. So there is also another argument that we can make, is what is the big concern about all this, especially when it comes down to the Palestinians. If you end up displacing the Palestinians, what you're going to be end up doing? You're going to be doing a repeat of what happened in 1948, because Palestinians have been and still and will always be haunted by the memories of the catastrophe or the Nakba that took place back then, when about 700 to 800,000 people were expelled from their homes. So that deep psychological scar in a society will last with you forever. And I'll give you guys quick example, two examples that really came to mind right away. Vietnam and the civil war that took place inside China, especially after what Japan did to the Chinese. Do you think Vietnamese people will ever forget? Do you think the Chinese people will ever forget? Even though the old generation passed away and so forth, I am sure they have disclosed that dark history with their offspring and the great-grandchildren and so forth. The same arguments I will make about the Gaza or the Palestinian people. So, because if you remember, this is why every year around the world on May 15th, you're gonna be hearing about it come May 15th. Palestinians around the world, which is about, give or take, based on my research, found about 12 to 12.5 million people that scattered around the world. So what they end up doing, million people that is, what they end up doing, they end up marking, meaning celebrating the Nakba, which is not in a good way celebrating it, but that's what they do, because that is considered an ethnic cleansing per se of the Palestinians. And this is that took place in 1948. And this is exactly what we're going to be witnessing should this plan move forward. I am not saying that it will be, but again, knowing how Trump thinks, the guy Trump doesn't think in terms of, you have to understand, Trump is for Trump. That's all I can say. Even now, the vice president himself, which brings me, as I remember, how do you think the vice president ended up being given the position? It's because of this guy, Peter Thiel, that went to school with Vance in Harvard, I believe, or I think Harvard, and that's the one who recommended. If you want to find out about this advancements of the AI that the US wants to do, go and listen to his speech yesterday in Paris, what he said. So, and this is where you need to understand the big picture as to why now, when you look at the West Asia or Middle East in general, a lot of people have no idea that this proposal, which is, not, it's illogic. I don't even have the right word to describe this particular proposal. I really don't. And I wish there's some specific word that beside reckless, But again, Mr. Trump doesn't think long term. Mr. Trump thinks about what's in it for me. Hell with the rest. And usually a good leader doesn't think in those terms. But again, do we have leaders in this country? No, we don't. No, we don't. And if you think about the Arab world that's going to take stand, don't count on it. Arab leaders are, and I say it, are useless. No exception. Once again, take Iran out, take Yemen out of the picture. So Afghanistan, well, they are not involved in what's going on. They have their own mess to deal with, and so forth. So what's left? Yes, you have some countries. Malaysia made the statements. Pakistan had demonstrations and so forth. Yeah, all this is good. Does it change the reality on the ground? No. So what happened to the Saudis, to the Emiratis, Kuwait, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, and so forth? Where's there all these weapons? Where is this all? And I am not advocating for war here, whatever. You all know where I stand on those issues. It just, to me, hypocrisy. I can't stand it. I'd rather, and I've always dealt this way with people. If I found out someone is being hypocritical with me, I'll just tell them, look at me, man. Look at me. Don't ever deal with me again. Straightforward. I don't waste my time, and that's it. Because if you don't have the courage to tell me to my face, then why should I trust you or deal with you? Straightforward. And that is exactly what's going on with the Arab world. Arab world, they care less for the Palestinians, like I always say, because they want to distract their distracting their populations from the failure of their economies. I mean, tell me, go around the Arab world and tell me if there's any economy that is really living up to standard or has improved the livelihood of their people for the last decade or so. I'll challenge anybody who can tell me otherwise. And I'll give you a comparison. Look at China 10 years ago. Where was the poverty level? Where it is today? If the country was able to uplift 700 million people out of poverty, that tells you they must be doing something right. I am not advocating for China here. That's beside the point. I am advocating for what's fact, what's factual, what's right, and the truth, because it matters. So we can't be shying away because I'm going to say this. I don't give a damn what my government thinks. Who cares? And I will tell them to their face. It's because it becomes the question of where do you stand on issues? You can't just be flip-flopping. You can't just be going where the wind is, because otherwise you end up with nothing. You sit with yourself and ask yourself, where do I stand on these issues? And you'll find, oh, well, I am on this side today. Tomorrow I will be on this side. That's chipping away from the foundation of your credibility. That's chipping away from the foundation of your of your principles. And one day you end up with nothing. Nothing. And I'm saying this, guys, in general term. That applies to life, not just geopolitics. Even in your dealings with people. Cut off the people that can be hypocrites. They are hypocritical or whatever. Cut them off of your life or time, what have you. Because they are just a negative energy that is going to drag you down. And there are those who will not want you to succeed, who will not want to see you improve. What they end up doing, dragging you down. It becomes on you to make that decision. I just had to share this with you because that's how I see it. So now it becomes the question is how this is going to impact now the and like I said earlier, the Egyptian. I don't know. Is he qualified to be called president? What do you guys think? Should he be called the president? Because how he came to power is through a coup. Maybe we'll call him president. Maybe not. I don't know. It's just different. it would have been different. And by the way, I know some of you might be thinking, well, there are others who came through military coups. You are right. And I am talking about Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. But on the other hand, look where their countries are right now. What are they moving towards? Compare that to Egypt. I understand the argument, but it just, anyway, Egyptian officials saying that now Sisi is concerned about the public image if he visits Washington and meets with Donald Trump. Because you remember, Donald Trump invited both. I don't know if about inviting or summoning, because both countries gets aid. Now, one of you put a comment about whether India gets aid also from the US, from US aid. I don't know. I am not aware of that. I'll check it out and go and go from there. So, and this is where Sisi wanted to avoid being exposed. That is the US that dictates the term, not the Egyptians or the Jordanians for that matter. They are both servants of the US and Israel for that matter, because they understand what the ramifications will be. And that is where that difference is. So the last thing I'm going to cover here, it has to do with the geopolitical landscape in the region should this move forward. Of course, you're going to see the refugees, which is going to be a nightmare for those two countries. But it's going to go beyond that, because you're going to have now the Saudis concerned about their own population, seeing what happened to fellow Muslims. And yet the Saudis are just, well, may God help them. Well, God has nothing to do with this, if I may say so. So, I mean, to me, it's so funny how they jump to these notions of God. I just don't get it. I don't get it. And I respect everybody's religions and beliefs and so forth. But those are facts on the ground. If you can't deal with them directly, then there's something fundamentally wrong from within that you need to look into. So it becomes the issue of the security concerns. Even Russians now have expressed their concern because they broke their silence. Yeah, the Russians did. They broke their silence regarding President Trump's Gaza plan, takeover plan. Yeah, they are saying, and I read this morning as to what their statements issued by the Kremlin as to there is no communication with the Americans regarding this issue. And we, Russians in this case, we do not approve of such thing because it's ludicrous. Well, today you do this to Palestinians, tomorrow who are you going to do that to? We already know what Mr. Trump mentioned about Greenland, what mentioned about Panama Canal, what mentioned about the Gulf of Mexico. What's next? And I can tell you what's next. What's next is the Far East. What you're going to be witnessing soon, you're going to be witnessing a posturing of American forces in the Asia Pacific. This is what you're going to be witnessing. And all this is to pave the way for that. Because what Trump's plan, according to whomever's pushing him for that, is they wanted to finalize this issue of Gaza, then turn all the attentions and resources to Asia. And mark my word on this, you will be witnessing soon the posturing of some American forces in the region. We all know what it means. And this is one of the issues I'm going to be addressing with my guest on Saturday, Professor Anna Mananda, because what the Filipino president, Marcos, is saying, it's a lie. As far as the Philippines has removed the typhoon system from its territory, it is a lie, and I have a proof that is otherwise. So, guys, that's all I have to share with you. I'll see if there are any questions. Just before I close in, the idea of this security, when I'm thinking about it, Middle East or West Asia, the security landscape is always impacted by not only the ethnic tensions that exist, but also the economic disruptions that exist, especially when it comes down to energy. And when you combine massive exodus of large number of refugees with economic conditions, with the security concerns, with oil prices, with gold, with the US dollar, an American image, all this combines and create like some sort of a setting by which it will be like a powder gig. It can explode anytime soon. So this is where I see this moving forward. I'm going to keep an eye on it to make sure just if there is anything worth sharing with you guys, I will do that and share it with you next time. So, let me see. A question from Army with Harmony, and thank you very much for your continued support. I'm very grateful to you. So, can military expel age group? No, they can't. They can't. Because first of all, if the US troops are on the ground, that's an occupying force. Occupying force under international law gives the country, meaning the owners of the land, the right to defend themselves. That's international law. I mean, if they think that they, meaning the US force, is going to intimidate these people, that means they don't understand the mindset of West Asia or Middle East. That is, those people do not fear death, unlike us here in the West. There is a great fear of death here. Just mention death to anybody and you see how they freak out, because everybody wants to live forever. So those people there, they don't have that. I mean, look at the Iraq war. Did we win? I mean, if anybody, I've been there on the ground on a different capacity. No, it was on a different capacities, and I used to argue on and on and on and on. This is not the right way of approaching this. We shouldn't be here to begin with, because you guys do not understand the complexities and the history of this part of the world. Oh, Mr. O, it's going to be a quick walk. We're just going to go and liberate Baghdad. I said, you are mistaken. The same argument I made about Afghanistan. They don't call it the grave of the empire for no reason. Ask the British. Ask the Ottomans before them. Even what's his name? Alexander the Great was trying and he failed. Or even ask the Soviet Union. What makes us so arrogant thinking, oh, we can do it? No, we won't. And we didn't. And it was a very humiliating way of living Afghanistan. It was very humiliating. So, same way in Vietnam. That's why we couldn't defeat the Vietnamese. They broke down the Americans, despite the mighty whatever. So we don't know. So the short answer, Army with Harmony, is no. They won't be able to. And this is one of the main issue for Israel, that it's really exposed it, that despite all this, they couldn't defeat Hamas. It's a reality. So anyway, guys, I want to share the link with you here to support the Asia trip. I am indeed planning on heading out to Asia down the road. It will be a few months from now. As I mentioned, by the end of the month, I'm going to disclose the figure that I need to have for the locations. Yes, I use plural. The locations that I intend to visit for a specific reason. You will know all this. Usually I don't disclose locations. You don't know. But you will know when I am there and as to what I plan on doing. So should you decide to support that trip, it is the link for that one. And I am very, very grateful to you. So like I always say, guys, Asia is the future. Simple as that. And I know in the West, I just did an analysis for you guys, a brief one, that you're going to need to understand a few things as to why there is no going back. So that's how I see it. So anyway, guys, hope you have the rest of your evening, and I look forward to seeing you next time. As always, remember, geopolitics impacts your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, bye-bye.